Right, good morning, grade fours, and welcome to our ongoing series about descriptive writing. Today's lesson is how to write a descriptive paragraph. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring together all of our descriptive writing techniques that we've done over the last couple of weeks. So that's the first thing there that you can see on your screens. Then we're going to brainstorm some ideas for our own descriptive paragraph, and then we're going to do some shared writing. All right. So, without further ado, let's quickly recap all the descriptive writing techniques that we've looked at over the past couple of weeks. So if you think back to the first one that we did, it was the rule of three. That's where we take three good adjectives and we put it in a sentence to describe an object or a creature or a character. Again, you can look on my past videos on my blog to see or to remind yourself how to do this. Next one was we looked at expanded noun phrases, and again there's a video on that as well. That's where we take a noun phrase, so for example a monster, and we expand it, make it bigger by putting in some more adjectives and then using the conjunction with to make it even bigger. So for example over here we've got a gigantic, powerful, hungry monster with sharp claws rather than just a monster. Then the next one we looked at, and this is always a good technique, is using similes to describe things. These is where you compare something to another thing, use the words like or as. And again, there's a separate video that I did on using similes that you can go and have a look at as well. Next one, this we haven't spoken about this one yet, but when it comes to describing characters or creatures, whether real or made up, you always want to describe what it smells and what it sounds like. So what noises does it make? What does it smell like? And there again, the tip here that I'm giving people is don't just tell me that it sounded loud or that it was really soft. In the example that I've given here, so for example, this creature's roar, I've used a simile to tell you how loud it is. Compare it to something. How loud is it? In my example here, is it as loud as a volcano erupting? Because is it as loud as someone screaming? Or is it as loud as a building collapsing? Or is it as loud as a volcano erupting? Those are all different kinds of loud, but each one of them describes in its own way how loud that creature or character is. So it's important that you tell me and compare it, because that gives you a really good idea, all right, of how loud this thing is. Okay. The same now with the describing what it smells like. Over here, I'm telling you this thing's breath reeked, and reeked is another synonym for smell. It reeked of rotting flesh and garbage. I could have just written there, this creature smelled disgusting, or its breath was disgusting. But now I've painted an image in your mind just how disgusting this thing's breath really smelled. Because we can all imagine what rotting flesh and garbage would smell like. It would, it would just be too horrible to even to contemplate. But if I just said to you there, it smelled disgusting, it doesn't really tell you how disgusting that is. All right. So again, my tip there is be specific. Think about something, a smell or a sound that you can compare it to. That gives the reader a much better idea of what you're talking about. How does it move? And again, be specific. The creature quietly tiptoed as slowly as a snail. And again, you can immediately think there, wow, this thing's really slow and it's really quiet because it's tiptoeing. Or your creature might do two kinds of different movements at the same time. So there's my second example there. When it moved, the beast half slithered and half crawled. So again, I'm being very specific when I write about how this thing moves. And finally, you want to tell me where this creature or this character lives. And again, you want to try and be as imaginative as you can there. So use some good adjectives. So for example, my first sentence here, it can be found in the dark, murky depths of the swamp. I could have just written there, it can be found in a forest, it lives in a cave, it lives on the top of a mountain. I've described it a little bit better there by using some adjectives. Or, to be really a bit more creative, I've written here, the creature enjoys lurking silently under your bed. So there I've created a bit of suspense. All right? But again, try and be descriptive and imaginative when telling me where this thing lives. So the next thing we're going to look at now is brainstorming, right? And this is nothing new. It's where we take something and we start putting down our ideas. So for example, we're going to start now with our character in the middle, and we're going to look at all the descriptive techniques we looked at. So for example, we're going to start with what does it look like? And then we're going to use the rule of three, use expanded noun phrases, use similes to describe what it looks like. Then we're going to look at how does it move? And again, using the tips that I told you, they describe its movement in detail. What happens when it moves? So as it moved, does something else on its body move? Does the ground shake? Something like that. What does it smell and sound like? And again, my tip there was compare its smell to something that readers will be familiar with. All right? Because then they'll be able to imagine. What does the sound remind you of? So again, tell me what the sound you can write there. When the creature spoke, or when the creature roared, or when the creature made a sound, it reminded me of. And again, what does it remind you of? Because again, the reader will be able to relate to that. And finally, we're going to write an idea of where does it live. So we're going to use these 4 bits over here to start brainstorming some ideas. Okay, and I'll give you an example of how you can do this. So this is where we're going to do some shared writing now. So go to my last page here. All right. So in my first bit over here, I came up with the name Phryxus. I'm doing an imaginary creature now, completely made up, not real at all. And I just dotted down a name, the Phryxus. I got an idea that I wanted my creature to have wings, and I've got this idea that I want it to be blue. All right. And again, so those are the only ideas that I'm writing down at this stage. What else am I going to write down about this creature? Well, I think to me it's going to be scary. And I'm thinking it's going to be a snake and an insect beast. So maybe half a snake, half an insect. And that's the idea that I've got in my head. Maybe it'll have the tail of a snake and the head of an insect. What insect? I'm not so sure yet. But that's something I can thrash out when I start writing my paragraph. What size is it? Well, I've sort of thinking it's about as long like a crocodile, because it's sort of like a snake, and I'm imagining that it's got this sting on its tail, or on the end of its tail. Right? That's the only idea that I've got at this stage. Right? But I'm jotting that idea down. As you can see, all of my ideas are just really simple at this stage because it's just brainstorming. I'm just putting my ideas down onto paper. How does it move? Well, at this stage, I'm putting it down. It moves like a snake. So I'm thinking in my mind, I'm going to use the word slithering in there somewhere, because that's how a snake moves. But I might think of something else. What does it sound like? It sounds like a dog. So I'm thinking, does it bark? Does it whimper? Does it growl? So I'm going to think of my creature making some kind of sound like that. And then finally, what does it smell like? Well, I've got down here, it smells disgusting. And in my mind, I'm thinking like rotten plants and stinky water. Because in my mind, I was thinking this creature, if it smells like rotten plants and stinky water, it lives somewhere in a swamp. All right, so that might be, I might include write a sentence there about how bad it smells because it lives in this place where there's lots of rotten plants and stinky water. In my mind, that's a swamp or a bog or something like that. Okay, so as you can see, those are my ideas. And just what I'd like you to do now is, or after the video, is think of your creature. You're going to write a descriptive paragraph about it, and just to jot down those ideas using those as your prompts. Okay, what does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? Where does it live? And how does it move? And you're only going to try and write 1 sentence on each. So my paragraph is only going to be about 4 sentences. And now I hear you thinking, but Mr. Van Straaten, 4 sentences. That is going to be an incredibly short paragraph. Right? But here's the thing. I want you to challenge yourself and write extended sentences. So your sentences are going to be quite long in this description. All right. So have a look what I've written over here and see if you can try and do the same. All right. So as I said, I started out with some really basic ideas that you can see in front of you, but this is how I pulled my paragraph together. So I'm just going to move it down quickly. There we go. Okay. All right. So my topic sentence, my opening sentence, is going to start off by telling me what this creature is called, if it's got a name, and a long sentence, perhaps using an expanded noun phrase. Okay, so that's what I've done here. So if we look at here, this unusual beast, called a Phryxus, was a terrifying, winged, inky blue creature. Okay, so if we just stop there very quickly, what I'll do very quickly is get the highlighting pen so we can have a look. Go. Highlighter. Okay. Okay. So let's have a look. What have I done in this first sentence here? Well, if you're really on the ball, you'll notice that I've got an expanded noun phrase, and I've used the root of 3. Terrifying, winged, inky blue creature. Right. But then I haven't just stopped there. To make the sentence even longer, I have given it I've expanded by using a conjunction. So it's a terrifying winged inky blue creature with a snake-like body. I could have stopped there, but I've used another conjunction to expand it even further. So it's got with a snake-like body and hideous cockroach head. If you recall correctly, I wanted to have wings. I've got winged. I've got blue, but again, I've spoken this about before. When you choose a color, be more precise with that color. Dark blue, light blue. I went for inky blue. Yeah, an inky blue. In my mind, that's quite a dark, rich blue. And I put in terrifying as my other adjective. So I wanted this beast to be quite scary, right? Which is what I used there. So scary. But again, scary, it's quite a weak word. Terrifying is a much better word for scary. But again, you can see the basic idea there, and I've just gone and changed it and modified it and made it better. That's what you do with your writing. So I've got terrifying winged inky blue creature with a snake-like body, because that's what I wanted to have there, snake. And I said insect, yeah. So the insect I chose was a cockroach, and I said this thing has got a hideous cockroach head. So it's got the snake-like body, but it's got the head of a cockroach. All right. Then I also said in my brainstorming that I wanted to be long like a crocodile with a sting on its tail. So let's look at the sentence that I've written. And can you see there, sorry, just going back here very quickly, can you see all of this here is just one whole sentence? It's one sentence. It's a really long sentence, but it's still just one sentence. All right. So can you see with the descriptive paragraph, your sentences, they should not be simple sentences. It was an ugly beast. All right. You can expand it by making it into a complex sentence now. Right, so I said I wanted it to be long like a crocodile and a sting on its tail. So let's look at my second sentence here. It was about as long as a crocodile, all right? And again, I want to expand it a bit more with a scarlet and gold tail that ended in a scorpion sting. All right, so again, I've been more specific about what kind of sting it had on its tail, and I've been more descriptive about the kind of tail that it's got. It's got a scarlet and gold tail. Okay, so again, with a scarlet and gold tail, and it's got a scorpion sting. Okay, and again, I think what I'll do is I'll quickly change my highlighter here to the color there, back there. Okay, let's go and scorpion sting. And there's my. Okay. So if we look over there, there's my second sentence. It was about as long as a crocodile with a scarlet and gold tail that ended in a scorpion sting. So I've only got 2 sentences so far, but they're really descriptive sentences. I've already got a really good idea of what this thing looks like. Now I'm going to go on to what this thing smells like. Okay, so I said that it smells disgusting like rotten plants and stinky water. Okay, so again, I'm not going to stick with the words that I used in there. Remember, that was just a brainstorm. So instead of the word smells, I came up with the word reeked. Okay, and instead of rotten plants, I came up with the word decaying plants. Okay, instead of stinky water, I came up with the word foul. Right, foul is also something smells foul. It smells disgusting. It doesn't smell nice at all. So it reeked of decaying plants and foul water from years spent living in an underground swamp. So in that sentence there, I'm telling you what it smells like, and I'm also telling you where it lives, what its habitat is. It lives in this underground swamp. Now I might go on to what it sounds like. I wrote over here, it sounds like a dog. That's going to sound a bit boring if I just wrote there, it sounds like a dog. Well, a dog can sound very differently. We know not all dogs sound the same. So my sentence was, from its strong jaws came a blood-curdling growl. And you can imagine to yourself, if a sound makes your blood curdle, you can imagine what that sounds like. It is a horrific, it's a terrifying sound. It makes your blood go cold. Yeah, blood curdles. You know? So that tells you that this growl was, it just made your blood freeze, your hairs stand up on end. And then I didn't just stop with that sentence there. I went on further by telling you how it moved. So originally in my brainstorming, I came up with the idea of it moving like a snake. Well, we all know snakes like to slither. And I did a bit of alliteration by saying it slithered slowly. Can you see how it's both of those words start with the S, this sound. It slithered slowly out of its lair, this underground swamp, and vanished into the sky. Now, the reason why I put there vanished into the sky, if you recall correctly, this thing had wings. So in the last bit of my sentence there, I wanted to describe how this thing flew up into the air. But rather than writing there, it flew away, I wrote that it vanished into the sky. So in my mind, I'm imagining how this thing suddenly started to flap its wing and just within a second or two just completely disappeared. It was that quick. All right. So if we look in total now, how many sentences have I written? Well, let's have a look. There's my first one over there, which ends with head. That's one sentence. My second sentence goes all the way to the end of sting. That's two sentences. My third sentence describes what it smells like and where it lives. That's three sentences. And my fourth sentence over here talks about the sound that it makes and how it moved. And it finishes with sky. So that whole paragraph, which is roughly between, I would say, 50 to 60 words, only has 4 sentences in it. But look how well it describes my creature. All right. So as you can see, just from my example here, 4 sentences, yes, but 4 incredibly descriptive sentences that really describe in my opinion, a hideously disgusting beast that I definitely would not want to meet in a dark alley anywhere. Or in fact, I wouldn't want to meet this creature anywhere, period. All right. So as you can see, I took my really simple ideas and just expanded them by changing the vocabulary, coming up with better synonyms for words like scary, for words like move, for words like rotten. All right. And I really thought about what this creature smelled like, sounded like, and so forth. Right? So I hope this gives you an idea of how you can take something really simple, all right, and really expand it and make it into a much better descriptive paragraph. So what you can do now is I suggest coming up with your own creature, really think about what you want this thing to look like, and have a go and see if you can write yourself a really good descriptive paragraph. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and we'll see you next time.